Hello, everybody. This is Scott Palmer. I'm Executive Officer of the Builders and Remodelers Association of Greater Boston. Welcome to our Wednesday webinar. This event will be recorded and we'll make it available for playback through our website. I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Lincoln Smith, the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at HMI Performance Incentives. In a moment, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mr. Smith, and he's going to present to you. We do have the ability to ask questions via our chat facility. Go ahead and type in things to that, and we'll respond to that. Also, after the event, we'll open the phone lines up for questions directly to Lincoln. And if you have any other questions, certainly ask me through the interface. And we'll, with that said, we'll start with the presentation from Mr. Smith.
Excellent, Scott. Well, hey, thanks.
As soon as I press the right button.
Yeah, no, right. No worries on that. No, thanks, Scott, for the nice introduction. And I tell you, I couldn't be, more excited and honored, to, be presenting here today to your member base. What we've done here is we've chatted with Scott and some of the members about the need of constantly improving how manufacturers and distributors in the building material space think about structuring incentive programs to motivate builders. And HMI Performance Incentives, we're based out of Boston. We work nationally and internationally. And one of our key verticals is, in fact, in the building material space. So we've been doing it since 1980. And today, I just want to share with you what we're seeing out in the marketplace, what an approach might look like in order to structure a program that drives performance and results for your organization, and provide you with a couple of samples of programs that are out in the market. And today is really a 10,000-foot view. We could always dive deep into any particular topic, but today is just to give you a little sprinkle of what we're seeing going on in the building materials industry as it pertains to structuring incentive programs and motivating and rewarding builders to increase their share of purchases through your organizations. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off here. Let's see. So today's key agenda items or takeaways is to give you a fresh perspective. Some of you that are on today's webinar may be very versed in structuring and executing incentive programs for your channel or targeting builders. And there's always areas that you can kind of improve, and it's always important to be able to kind of see what else is going on in the marketplace. So hopefully today you are able to have a fresh perspective, and there might be one or two nuggets of information on how you might look at structuring a program or improving your program out in the market. To also give you insights on what we're calling the next generation of incentive design. And in the past, programs were do this, get that, and we're seeing a much more sophisticated view of really analyzing the market, your competition, your customer base, and structuring programs that are very targeted to have those builders meet certain goals and objectives. So we'll talk about what that approach looks like as far as design. And there may any next steps that you might be able to take to improve your program out in the marketplace, or to even think about designing a new program that might be for 2019. What we see out in the marketplace is, just a few bullet points to level set, is that we're seeing increased competition. In some instances, there's definitely consolidation that's happening at the same time, but that consolidation is also, providing, more difficult competition in our marketplace. Regardless if we're a manufacturer or a distributor in the building material space, competition continues to be fierce, and we're always looking for new ways to differentiate ourselves and add value to our customers out in the market. Of course, price and margin erosion is another concern that we always have. How do we operate our businesses more efficiently is always one way of trying to increase and hold on to margin. But another way is structuring a performance incentive program that really helps highlight your added value and to make price not the number one reason that someone's doing business with you, and putting together a marketing or an incentive program to help accentuate that is extremely important. Another challenge that's out in the marketplace is that just the efficiencies in marketing. Of course, you want to have an integrated marketing campaign with both your traditional and e-commerce initiatives. You want to have an integrated message highlighting your key suppliers and your branch locations and being able to differentiate your service. So, how do we clearly communicate that out in the marketplace is becoming more and more difficult. And again, an incentive program can really help out with communicating and your value proposition. In distribution, in particular, it's a market share game. So, how do we take share, especially if it's a consolidated market? That's where a lot of our growth is going to come from. Is getting our current customers to shift more of their purchases with us, and being able to either defend and/or take share. And the other observation that we have is that skilled talent in the building industry is also having a lot of shortage. With the job market being so good, it's hard to retain good construction talents. So how do we find and attract those types of individuals? So the first thing here I want to be able to say is the proper incentive program will either have a cash or a non-cash question. Is typically one of the things that we see oftentimes asked in the front end. And what we find is that when you do structure an incentive program, having a tangible award is really important. Cash is often looked at as a compensator or a pricing strategy. So you definitely have to have a compensation structure and or the proper pricing structure to be competitive in the marketplace. But an incentive program, really should include some non-cash elements that are associated with it. And some of the key reasons for that is that a non-cash rewards program, allows you to promote a particular travel item or a particular merchandise item that a builder would be striving for. And it's not taboo to talk about earning or receiving an award. So one of the things is that having a non-cash reward, it definitely has kind of a sociability effect to it. We don't really share that we got a price discount or a rebate. We don't really share with our friends or family that we got a compensation bonus at the end of the year. It's a little bit taboo to even talk about earning or receiving those types of elements, and it's not very exciting to talk about. But a tangible award is definitely something that you would share with friends and be very proud of. Another reason that non-cash awards are an effective motivator for targeting your customers or builders or your employees is that a lot of times these individuals are looking for these awards and they're more justifiable. As an example, I personally may not spend money on a particular item or event using my own dollars, but if I was to receive it as part of a rewards program, I would be very excited to do so. And so I can't justify spending my own money on a particular item, but if I knew that I could get a Bose headset, then I wouldn't use my own dollars for it. I'd be willing to spend my own points as an example for that. So a lot of the non-cash reward programs are more justifiable. The separability of it is, again, it's not to be confused with compensation, money, or price. It's something psychologically that is completely separate from all those other business drivers. And repeat consumption is the other one I wanted to highlight. On a personal anecdote, I was in an incentive program, and believe it or not, I ended up getting an electronic toothbrush, which was probably about 10 years ago. It was one of those sonic ones. And anyhow, that sonic toothbrush sat in my bathroom, and I used it, twice a day, every day for multiple years. And there was a repeat consumption that every time I used that toothbrush, I remembered the instance of how I earned it and whom gave it to me. So, receiving a cash $50 payout opposed to a toothbrush that sits in there and you think about twice a day for many months or years has a lot more repeat consumption and a lot more staying power than just cash itself. So anyhow, this is something that I wanted to kind of start off and highlight the importance of looking at a program and looking beyond a rebate or a cash incentive. There's a little video here that I'll go ahead and play. It's a Seinfeld video for those of you that are part of this generation. This is a nice little anecdote of the difference between a cash, a cash type of a payout. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this. It's just a quick 2-minute video.
Maybe you won't like it.
Oh, how could I not like it? Of course I like it.
You could not like it.
Just the fact that you remembered means everything.
Of course I remembered. It reminded me every day for 2 months. Oh, the card.
Cash? You got me cash?
Well, that's right. You can go out and get yourself whatever you want. No good?
Are you my uncle?
Hey, come on. It's $182 there. I don't think that's anything to sneeze at.
Let me see the card. To a wonderful girl, a great pal, and more.
Hey. Oh, Elaine, I'm glad you're here. Stay right here. I'm going to be right back. What's the thing?
Pal? You think I'm your pal?
He said, and more.
I am not your pal.
What's wrong with pal? Why is everybody so down on pal?
Oh, what is this?
Yeah.
You got me something?
Yeah, open.
Oh, Kramer! The bitch! You got me the bitch!
Pretty good, huh? Great. Remember when we were standing there, she mentioned it? I made a mental note of it. Well, good ain't for you. Oh, yes. I'm very sensitive about that. I mean, someone's birthday comes up, I keep my ears open. So what'd you get her? $182. Cash? You've got to be kidding. What kind of gift is that? That's like something her uncle would give her.
Think where man's glory most begins and ends. And say my glory was I had such a friend.
Gates.
Oh.
Could you excuse us, please? We're talking. Oh, the relationship.
Well, anyhow, I hope the idea behind that little anecdote there is that here you got Seinfeld, and think of Elaine as your customer as an example, or the builder. The key there was that she was not impressed at all with the cash. She wasn't also impressed with the presentation of it, or the messaging of it. So I know it's a gift in this particular instance, but we also see this with, business incentives as well. So, Kramer, on the other hand, might have been your competition, and, he was really knew his customer really well, which was Elaine in this case, and, he was providing, something that was very meaningful to Elaine, and, was thoughtful, and that bench is going to be, in her home for many months or many years, and she'll be thinking of Kramer about that. So the staying power of non-cash is really important. Transitioning to the importance of running an incentive program and having something that's tangible or an experience that you're offering a customer is going to build a lot more motivation. But what we want to do is talk about how you approach even designing a program in the beginning. And what we do is we go through a 4-phased approach. And I'm going to walk through each of these phases with you and just remind you of some of the important elements that you need to think through when you structure an incentive program. First one is exploring. It's really important to kind of explore, your customer, your competition, what kind of growth they've been giving you over the last couple of years, really understanding what their product mix is, what programs that you've run in the past, what are the manufacturers running to this target audience. But really, again, just kind of exploring your customers, what their behaviors have been, what's worked, what's not worked, and really getting a good grasp of the landscape. The second phase that you want to go through is after you've taken a look at what's going on currently is, kind of envisioning what a program might look like. And there might be 1 or 2 or 3 different paths of types of program structures, different type of reward systems that you might use that you think might motivate them. So we always kind of go through this idea generation of helping design different program themes and structures for you. And then, of course, you want to execute the incentive program, which will have a launch date. You'll maintain the program through the period of time, and then you'll also want to be able to, fulfill on it. So there's kind of the execution of it. And last but not least is the evaluation. And that's really an iterative process or an ongoing process. The programs that we see that are most effective have KPIs that are established on the front end, and you're measuring the performance. Are my builders enrolled in the program? Are they on track to meet the goals and objectives? Are they opening up the e-communications that we're sending to them? Am I getting anecdotal feedback from my branch managers? All of those elements, need to be evaluated and make sure that it's on track. If for any reason it's not, you want to make some adjustments to your program structure or strategy to make sure that they are delivering proper results for you. So this is a 4-phased approach on design or building it out. Examples on exploring why would you want to run a program. In some instances, you might have a receivables issue. So structuring a program to make sure that they're current and paying within 30 days. There's always a carrot or a stick, and a properly structured incentive program can really help out with, you only get credit for those purchases that are current within the 30 days. Anything past the 30 days, you don't get credit towards the incentive goals. You may be looking to acquire new customers, so you might want to structure a program that's really customer acquisition focused. Inventory. How do I push particular products or inventory for certain periods or seasons of time? Could be one of the reasons. Building loyalty or strengthening relationships with your top customer base, making sure that they retain the share of purchases that they're giving you. Just ongoing communications. How do I keep that value add and my brand top of mind to my customer base? And an incentive program can really help out with creating that message. And most incentive programs always have increasing sales and trying to retain or hold on to profit margin. So most of these programs always kind of, in some fashion, boil down to how am I going to increase the share of purchases for my customers and hold the margin. take the focus off of price. A new trend is online ordering. So anything that has to do with e-commerce, a lot of times there's a lot of investment that you're making in the e-commerce solutions and you're having poor adoption. So we may decide to run a program and reward for, as an example, setting up an e-commerce account might be rewarded. And then the frequency of the use of that online order might be another initiative that you may want to reward that behavior. So again, online orders could be another one. And then you want to differentiate from competition. Sometimes it's a defensive play where you have some other competitor in the marketplace that seems to have a lot of mind share with their incentive program, and you need to be able to combat that with your own program and make sure that it has its own uniqueness and different from your competition. When we structure a program, you want to have very obtainable and clear and concise goals for your audience. There's always that adage that you want to be, keep it simple, and there's that's always something that you want to keep in mind. You want to keep the goals easy to understand and very obtainable. And when we say that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not strategic. So you can have a simple program structure and rules that are easy for your builders to understand, but that does not compromise the strategic elements of it. Different rule structures is an incremental play would be to individually assign a goal for each one of your customers, and we would track that to the goal, and they would only get paid out based off of the incremental sales lift that they've given you. We also see product mix initiatives where you may have a good, better, best margin mix, and we would reward them good, better, or best depending on the purchases of those particular categories, or making sure that they are giving you the proper mix of sales or purchases. Brand awareness, those are non-revenue based, just productivity or branding or loyalty. Interacting with training initiatives is also another popular business objectives that are oftentimes rewarded on in today's marketplace. So again, just looking at different goals, what is it that you're really trying to drive? Is it revenue based or is it behavioral based? And making sure that they're very clear and achievable. When you look at your strategy, we're going to want to take a look at who's the right audience, especially if any of you that are on the phone here today that are manufacturers. A lot of times as a manufacturer, you may be wanting to target distributor locations, or maybe distribution sales reps might be another target audience that you may want to go after. Or as a manufacturer, you may want to skip distribution and go directly to the builder or the contractor themselves. How are you going to do that? So the left side of the screen is to really kind of talk about the different target audiences that could participate in an incentive program and making sure that we got the right influencer participating. The right side of the screen talks about the different audience members, not on who they are, but what type of volume level they are in relationship to your customer segment. And the Pareto rule is we see all the time is you have 20% of your customer base producing 80% of your revenue, as an example. You want to target that top 20% of your customer base. Are those the most important customers that you want to build and strengthen relationships with? We call that maybe more of a defensive play, where I want to hold and retain and build relationships with my key customers that are driving my business. We call an offensive play is where we might look at that middle 60 segment of your customers or your builders and say, well, geez, I think a lot of these guys have a capacity to really grow their purchases. And this would be then targeting that audience and saying, hey, I think there's a much more upside with this customer segment, and I want to structure a program that's specifically to that audience. So again, knowing who your audience is, where they are in your distribution channel, and then also what segment of their overall volume they represents your business, and figuring out who do you want to target. The data analytics is a huge part of identifying what segment they're in, but a lot of times it might be broken down by geographic or customer type and or volume type. And the other thing that we want to take a look at, or you should be taking a look at, is that not all customers are equal in profitability. So that's another thing that you want to consider, is that you may end up segmenting your program or having different goals or payouts depending on the profitability of a particular customer. And looking at the data on the front end allows you to benchmark the behaviors and the success that you are seeking out for the rewards program, and making sure that you're hitting them and that you're going to get a positive ROI. So the data analytics is really important to take a look at your customer base, profitability on the front end, and make sure that we have the right structure for you. The right rewards is the other piece that we want to take a look at. Those of you that are on the phone, maybe you already are running rewards programs, and they'll either be in the form of a rebate or a cash spiff. It could be a particular promotional item that you're giving builders with your brand on it. It could be a points-based incentive program where they accrue points similar to your American Express rewards program and allow them for merchandise and experiential rewards. In the building material space, we see group incentive travel still, 40 years later, is an immensely popular reward vehicle to get your builders to reach certain volume goals and then be recognized in a group incentive travel destination. So knowing who your audience is and the different types of programs or different types of rewards, it's not a one-size-fits-all. You really have to kind of think about what is the right reward vehicle that's going to help engage your audience and get them motivated to shift more sales to you. As far as the rewards are concerned, travel, as I mentioned, is extremely popular in this space, both in particular for a lot of wholesale distributors. These are programs that are typically volume or sales incremental structures where you go out and invite certain customers to participate in your President's Club incentive program. And you would then put a goal in front of them, you would choose a specific destination, and you would track their performance over the course of typically about a 12-month period. You'd market and promote to them to their home. You'd get their spouse and their family excited about your brand, about your program, letting the entire family know how close they are to earning this exciting group incentive travel program. And a lot of them are fun and fun destinations, Caribbean, Mexico, some of the bigger budget programs, you can go over to Europe. But the idea here is to network and be able to strengthen relationships on site with your key customers that are driving your business. So a lot of benefits to a group incentive travel program. We coined it a return on an experience. Once you get your top customers in a fabulous location and sharing experiences together, those things last a long time, and their loyalty and that residual benefit is going to happen for years and years to come. A second type of reward structure or option instead of group incentive travel might be more of a spiff-oriented incentive program. And the spiff really has to do with the time duration more than anything else. A spiff might be a 3 to 9 month program. It's a little bit shorter initiatives. They have a little bit shorter runways. They have a very simple do this, get that type of a structure. It could be pushing a particular product. It could be a customer acquisition. It could be inventory. It could be growth based. But again, those are things that would have kind of a much shorter period of time that's associated with it. And I'll walk through a couple of samples on that here in a moment. The other reward vehicle that you could consider is a points-based system, and this would be a loyalty program like your Marriott Rewards program. It would have your own brand on it. So, you know, as an example, we work with a company called Polyglass. They're a manufacturer of underlayments in the roofing industry. So they have a program called Polyglass Q Rewards. And the Polyglass Key Rewards is targeting roofing contractors, and those contractors are enrolled in that loyalty program or that rewards program. And they opt into it. It's a web portal. They get communicated to every month, and for every purchase, all their purchases of these underlayments, they earn reward points. And those reward points then are available for merchandise, travel, experiential awards. You go into that online portal and you accrue those points and then redeem them however you so choose. So again, that's a great branding initiative, and it allows you to you know, reward those individuals, both your small, medium, and large customers. The more they spend, the more they earn. The less they spend, the less they have as an option. Each of these programs, you should really take a look at what you're doing as far as generating excitement and overall engagement. So, you know, it's really important to have a great theme that's associated with your program, and you know, you have a good combination of offline as well as electronic communications, letting them know where they're at in relationship to the goals, the objectives that you have. You know, sharing testimonials of some of the customers that are participating in the program, and again, highlighting some really great brands or experiences that they could take advantage of. So, on the right, we do a lot with, especially in the building industry, anything that has to do with travel, hunting, fishing, outdoorsmen, sports. You know, the Yeti brand, you know, electronics. So, you know, using the proper brand and making sure that you're kind of highlighting the exciting elements that you're offering that demographic is really important. You can never over-communicate a program. You want to get your sales organization involved, your branch managers, you know, and just make sure that you're getting the message and the excitement and the value add part of the program. So you can never over-communicate. On the evaluation side, once you've launched the program and you have the right audience and we've communicated it, the real element here is to make sure that you're meeting those goals and objectives. And if all of a sudden you're 3 months into your initiative and you expected, I'm making up numbers here, you know, 500 builders to have opted into your program and you only have 350, you do have to kind of take, you know, pause and say, well, why is that, and what is it that we need to do in order to make sure that we get those goals and that activation? You know, are we getting the right customers involved? Are they tracking to hit their goals or not? And what is it that we need to do to make any adjustment? A lot of times we're gaining insights also in these rewards programs. For those of you that are manufacturers, you know, a lot of times you don't have the data insights on what the builder is actually installing at that individual level. So an incentive program could, in fact, have data capture information and great insights that you might use not only for the incentive program, but for your business. You know, better insights just for having that detailed information. For distributors or wholesalers or dealers that are on the phone call today, one of the things that is really important when you structure an incentive program is to think about how it's going to be structured and funded. You know, we do run programs that are self-liquidating, if you will, where they're completely incrementally based, and you can justify it and fund it through the incremental gross margin. So that's very popular. Other times it might be just a loyalty play, and you're willing to pay out 1% to 2% in the form of a reward value, for every purchase, as an example. But manufacturers do support a properly structured and communicated incentive program. It's called different things to different people in the marketplace. We oftentimes use the word MDF or marketing development funds. If you do structure a program and you're a wholesaler or a dealer, there are opportunities that to solicit some of your key suppliers or manufacturers to support that. And as long as you have a defined deliverables and a defined plan, and you go to them as a partner and ask them to support this particular initiative, those dollars are available to be allocated to these types of initiatives. The manufacturers are really looking for those types of strategic marketing initiatives from the distributors and their partners. So they're willing to do it. A lot of times they'll be looking for reporting and insights on who your customers are and what the activities are that they've done as it pertains to their line of products. Sometimes they're wanting selectivity or exclusivity. So a lot of times they don't want their competition to also be highlighted. So they may say, I'm willing to pay you X% to support your initiative if I'm the exclusive lumber company that's participating in the program. So anyhow, it's really important to kind of bring in those suppliers or key manufacturers to help support your strategy and fund it properly. Once you've figured out the rules, this is some best practices on what you might want to, how you might look at structuring an incentive program. We see a lot of times these are best practices. You may end up spending 1 to 3% of your sales, as an example, in the form of a rewards program. That's participating sales. I paused real quick there. It's not your entire sales of your entire organization. It's the sales that are participating in the promotion itself. You might allocate 1 to 3% of those dollars to help support a properly structured incentive. Or if it's an incremental based program, you might spend 5 to 12% of the incremental gross margin to fund a program. On the right hand side, these are thoughts on how you might budget, and you would normally have about 70% of your budget for an incentive program for the actual rewards itself, and the other 30% it should be allocated to think about how you're going to operate the program, the marketing and communication elements to support it, and then if there's any type of technology or platform or licensing or reporting elements or costs that are associated. This would be an example of how you might think about budgeting for a program. So the key takeaways here is, again, for the four phases is, exploring, what your goals and objectives are, what the market currently looks like, and making sure that you have a good understanding of, what types of goals and structures and rewards might in fact achieve your goals and objectives. Figuring out the communications is a key element, and then making sure that we have the right rewards that are going to motivate those individuals, and then you're going to want to be able to track and show the success of it. Everything needs to be measurable. 10 or 15 years ago, you just kind of throw a program together and then pay out at the end. Today they're very sophisticated with very specific goals and objectives that have to be met in order for any type of an investment to be paid out on. So be sure that you're tracking those and making any adjustments as needed. So that's kind of the approach on how you should look at structuring a program at the high level here. I know we're getting close to the 45-minute mark here. I'm going to blow through a few program samples and then I'll turn it over for any questions. But there's sweepstakes promotions. Here in this particular case, if you submit an invoice, you might get entered to win something, and that could have a grand prize, monthly prizes. So the more sales I make and the more submittals I make, the greater the chances are that I might earn something. This is a program that we're running with Roseburg, which is a manufacturer of lumber based out of Washington. They work nationally. They have a product line called Duratemp, which is a type of lumber that's used for sheds. And this is a promotion that we're running for them, where shed builders and dealers come in and they opt into the program to participate. You can see that they have entries based off of each shed that they've sold with the Duratemp product line on it. They get entered into monthly and quarterly and a grand prize earner. So we're tracking them through their submittals and how many entries or ballots they've earned. The grand prize is a bass fishing boat, and then that'll be being given out at the Shed Builder trade show at the end of the year. We're going to have a big presentation to the shed builder that earned that, and we'll actually have the fishing boat in their booth, and we're going to make a big deal. There'll be a photo op, and we'll be able to kind of congratulate the sweepstakes winner at that event. Quarterly prizes are grill racks, Yeti coolers, and then monthly prizes are Cabela's gift cards. So obviously has a very much of an outdoor sportsman theme to it. This would be an example of how they would enter their submissions to get credit. Here's just another view of a marketing piece. This was an advertisement in the Shed Builder magazine, talking to the dealers about the sweepstakes, highlighting the boat, and then pointing them to the website. So that's an example of a sweepstakes promotion. It's a fixed budget, and targeting dealers. Two more programs I'll share with you, and then I'll stop. This is more of a spiff or a short-term promotion. We worked with a company based out of the Midwest. They were a wholesaler. We targeted their key customers, and what we did is we took the same period previous year sales, and we increased it by 10%, 15%, and 20%, and gave them 3 different goals. And we tracked those goals over the period of time, and if they hit the first one, they get a bronze award or a silver or a gold. And each of those we track monthly. You have these individual travel packages, and they become good, better, best type of individual travel. So it's not group, but it's a travel package. It's growth oriented as a short-term initiative, but something that's very exciting and obtainable for each one of those customers. This is just another example of some of the marketing on it. Here's an example of a points-based program structure going after customers. If you come down here to the bottom, what they do is they earn 2 points up until their goal. We sign a goal per customer. So they would earn 2 points up until the goal, and then they earn double points on all dollar purchases above their goal. So it's an incremental program, but we pay out loyalty and incremental sales. This is an example of we're still working on it. This program goes through 2018, and the trend continues. But you can see through 2009, 10, and 11, those were pretty grim years in the building material space. And these are results of their customers that we signed goals. And each year, even in these down markets, we were able to do 8%, 16, 12, 10, 6% growth over the goals that we've set for them. So a properly structured program with the right rewards and the right communications, even in a down market, we can gain sales because it's a market share game, and we're giving them another reason to shift their purchases over to this particular wholesaler in that case. So again, proper programs can deliver regardless of what the market looks like. different types of gamifications. We have a product called Promo to Go, and it has kind of a sweepstakes or a spin to win element to it. So you can give your builder a card, electronic card, or a physical card. Instead of giving a gift card, you can give them this opportunity to win a grand prize, or in this case, everyone's a winner, so everyone would get a $10 card, or you could actually have won 2 tickets to a sporting event. So anyhow, I apologize. I went a little bit longer than I anticipated, probably by about 10 minutes, but we're about 10 or 12 minutes before the hour here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pause. I hope it gave everyone a brief overview on just how to think about structuring a program and the different elements that need to be thought through. If anyone has any questions, we can open that up, and then of course, I'm available. If anyone wanted to chat more in depth, one-on-one about your programs, be happy to provide any best practices that you'd like. So I'll go ahead and pause and turn it over to Scott, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Lincoln. I have one question for you. From a builder's perspective, does it make any sense to set up or establish some kind of production performance program for the project managers, say establishing some kind of goal with getting your project done on time, or putting it in within budget, or something like that for your project managers on the job sites?
Yeah, no, that's a great example. The short answer is definitely. It's just kind of thinking through, who those audience members are, what would the criteria be, and you gave a couple of examples of that. Some of the questions that I would ask is, what would the frequency of those events be, and if there's enough frequency in it, then you can have kind of a program structure that really encourages that behavior. If it's a project that only happens once or twice a year, as an example, then it's hard to kind of structure a program that really drives the behavior. Although, even if it is once or twice a year, you could do almost a do this, get that type of an incentive program or structure, and you can have it be themed with travel or merchandise or a gift card. But short answer is absolutely any behavior that can be tracked and measured and has some frequency, is definitely something that should be considered. Having an incentive program help.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I'm going to open up the phones in case anybody has a question. I think the phones are open.
I know it's a large. Feel free to interrupt me if anyone has any questions. I know it's when we do the webinars, we know there's different business types that are always on this, so I try and keep it really broad. So I didn't dive into each business type too deep to try and on purpose. So if you do have a specific thing for your business, this would be a great time to ask it, and I can give examples.
I think I found the only question. Oh, here we go. Well, we get some couple of thank yous coming through on the chat there. But Lincoln and Dana, I want to thank you very much for joining us today, and everybody else on the phone. As I said, I will have this available for rebroadcast on a web page soon, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Lincoln.